Now we're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast. I am Jason Laporte. As always, my co-host, Mr. Zach Partridge, in the house.
What up?
What up, sir? How are you?
Allergies are kicking my butt today, dude.
It's one of those. It's that
So-
time of the year.
So forgive me if I go off camera, sneeze,
Nobody,
get my tissues out.
nobody will be upset about that.
It's killing me today, but other than that, it's good.
So we got a special guest on today to help us break down these fights from last weekend. A good friend of ours that we actually did a breakdown of the fights last Wednesday or Thursday. We did the breakdown.
Yep.
Aspiring burner on Twitter. So if you don't follow him, give him a follow. Great content. Mr. Harrison, how you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing well. I had a great time watching the fights this weekend. I had a great time watching NFL football all day yesterday, watching the Heat take their probably their last victory of the season.
Get out of here. No. You're not going to get that unpassed. They're not getting swept by the Lakers. Stop that. You stop that.
Do you think they got it, or you just think it's going to be a competitive series?
I take if I was a gambling person, which I am, I would take the Lakers in 6.
In 6? Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Everybody was saying, I mean, shit, I shouldn't count them out so much. Everybody was. I was one of the people that was saying, watch, they're going to win this series against the Celtics, and here we are. So
They have that dog in them.
they do. It's LeBron. It's LeBron James. That's the only reason that I think it's going to be a short series.
They got shooters though
loves
too.
it.
The Heat have those shooters, man. They can shoot the three. Hero's balling.
I owe Tyler Hero lunch.
Hey, have you seen the supermodel that on Twitter that he has been supposedly seeing in Twitter?
No, hang on. I got my laptop right in front of me here.
Look that up because
While you're looking that up, though, I'm just saying Jimmy Butler loves those matchups with those superstars because he doesn't get enough credit for being a superstar, and the dude's a dog on defense, and they'll win a game. I think they'll win a game or two.
I loved his stint with the Timberwolves.
I did too.
I'm in Minneapolis, and that was great. I loved his stint with the Timberwolves. Oh, she's bad. All right, good call.
So
All
now you know that's the reason they say Tyler Hero's playing so well is because of her. So
hell yeah, she in the bubble? She an Orlando gal?
apparently,
Maybe that's what it is.
Apparently, yeah. I mean, I don't know, but hey, it's working. So whatever it is. So you guys, freaking awesome card. I don't know why people on Twitter are dogging this card and saying this card wasn't any good, but I don't know where people are getting off of this. I loved it. What'd you guys think?
I don't know what people are doing. They're doing some kind of I think people just love to be sensationalist about champions in the UFC. And so whenever you have a title fight, I think we're losing all of that sensationalism about Reyes and Blachowicz because of the Adesanya Costa fight. But fighters have always said rude stuff after fights. Fighters have always said crazy stuff to Dana after fights. So I think people are blowing that up to the point where people are dogging the rest of the card because they want to dog one or the other of the fighters in the main event. I think that trickles down and people forget about the prelims entirely by the time the main event is over, which I try to make sure that I don't fall into that trap. But I think people are they'll see it differently down the road when they watch it again on Fight Pass.
What do you think, Zach?
Fans as a whole are stupid. Like as a whole, like as a collective group, they act like morons and they feed off each other's stupidity. Usually like individually, like if you have a one-on-one conversation, it's like, oh yeah, like they get it, or you can talk it out. But people just throw these blanket statements on Twitter. I think a lot of times just to see, they say outlandish stuff that they don't even believe just to get responses hopefully from somebody, or likes or whatever. They'll come up with something clever. But if you didn't enjoy that card, don't pay next time. I don't know. It was awesome. I would have paid double that for that.
It was a great
like people that complain about pay-per-views for a night of entertainment for that, $65 for that. I'd pay $150 for that. How could you not be entertained?
I've paid more for less. Yeah,
exactly.
Facts.
So we started off the night, and Zach and I on our predictions, we never bet against the Russians, and we were flat out wrong on this card because the Russians were 0-2.
Yeah, I did the same as you guys. That was
that was an underwhelming performance.
Yeah,
that was for me. That was I don't like dog and fighters, and I'll never do it. So I'm not going to say like they went in there and didn't put in effort or anything. I mean, I know these guys trained and they went to Abu Dhabi and, they're professionals, but I mean, that just wasn't a great, I said during the fight, I was kind of like, man, I don't want to see either one of these guys for a bit. I want them to go figure something out again before winner or loser. I want these guys to figure some stuff out before I see them fight again.
Yeah.
First and foremost, a strength and conditioning coach would probably be ideal in both of their camps because they both gassed out like halfway through the second round, like had nothing left. And when you get to that point, and usually what sucks is usually you see that with the heavyweights, right?
Yeah.
You see the heavyweights that nobody gets the knockout, and then those kind of lower tier heavyweights, dude, they both look like they were a little bit out of shape. And you're a professional athlete, and I don't mean to dog. I don't like to dog fighters either, but I will be critical where criticism is deserved. And if you're a professional athlete and you come in out of shape, you probably missed an opportunity to make a name for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. Well, listen, we don't need to get any more on that one. Let's skip to the next one. Was Juan Espinino and Jeff Hughes, which I think we all were on.
Told you so.
We all were on agreement. I think everybody agreed.
Juan Espino's a stud, man.
I tried to make a case. I was texting Zach, and I'm like, "Dude, Jeff Hughes, man." I'm the type of person that'll try to see the other side of the coin and be like, "Hey, Jeff Hughes is stand up, and he's gonna knock him out." And
sometimes there's a two-headed coin, and that was the case. Jason, and I mean, I get what you say. Valid points, right? He trains with Stipe, like probably has some decent wrestling and grappling, like whatever. But dude, if there's anything that we haven't learned in the last few years, with all the champions with wrestling backgrounds. If there's anything you haven't learned, it's when you have an elite grappler against somebody who was just like decent, they're gonna get got, and there's just nothing you could do about it.
I thought because I had said in our breakdown that I thought Jeff Hughes was one of those guys where I think if he really wanted to be serious about taking his professional career to the next level, he'd cut down to light heavyweight because I don't know why he's that big, and I think that showed up really. He looked pretty big in that ring. I mean, like he could have taken down 10 and maybe moved around the ring a little better at least. I mean, he looked heavy on his feet in there while he was getting, for the duration of that, how long that fight was.
But you see how fast it finished once it go to the ground. It was over.
I wanted to bring up something the touch on the fact that he does train with Stipe, but we had on a podcast a couple weeks ago, we had on John Gunther on here, who also trained at Stipe's gym. And maybe Zach and I think we both kind of read into this. Doesn't sound like Stipe was actually in there training with these guys. So maybe they train at the same gym, but I don't think Jeff Hughes is getting time with Stipe.
Well, I think in every sport you get that a little bit, as soon as a guy has as soon as a quarterback goes and throws one workout with Antonio Brown, he's coming to that team. As soon as anybody trains at one fighter's gym, that fighter is going to be in his corner for the fight. I mean, there's only so many world-class gyms in the United States. In the end of it, you got to train at one of them.
Yep. Well, we knew what was going to happen on that submission in the first round. This is probably the first fight on the card that I was most excited about and completely wrong.
Yes, you are.
I totally doubted William Knight.
I did too.
And
told both of you so.
I'm a fan, man. I like the guy. I was impressed. I'm not quite sure if he's going to be ready for some of the top level guys in the light heavyweight division, but what was your take on it, Burner?
So I'm a big William Knight fan now. I was a fan of his coming out of the Contender Series, but I just didn't think he was going to be able to get it done against this freaky athletic dude. But I mean, he really got it done, and he looked good in there. I mean, he's huge, and he was chugging. I thought he was gonna swing real heavy and gas out kind of in the first round, and he was slugging. He was all over the place. I mean, he's athletic, he's fast, he's a heavy hitter. I mean, I like William Knight. I think he's gonna go up to. I'm not saying anything like Khamzat or anything, but I see him going high onto a higher rung of the UFC.
What William Knight showed is that he's not just a powerhouse and like a knockout artist. like a violent knockout artist. He showed that he's a well-rounded MMA fighter in that fight. And I think to him, that's the one thing that everybody needs to be put on notice about. Yes, he's huge. Yes, he's violent when he gets you hurt, like he goes for the finish, all that. But he showed that he's a complete mixed martial artist. And with that skill set and athleticism and that power and his ability to maintain a pretty decent pace for 3 rounds, I think he's going to be a problem with that 205 division. And we're going to start seeing him go through a couple guys. And I think he's probably 2-3 fights away from starting to fight some top 15 guys.
Light heavyweight, the 15 isn't even that. I mean, that's I like it at the top, but the 15 is kind of weak if you're looking at it objectively compared to all of the other ones. So I could see him getting up on I mean, I think he's definitely going to fight a guy we've heard of next. Like,
has to.
Yeah.
Where do you think he goes next? And do you guys have any names you'd like to see him in there with next? Does he fight somebody in the top 15 next, or
not yet?
Not quite yet. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah.
Same.
I think we'll get him. I could see him being the featured prelim for a fight night next. I could see him with another maybe up and comer featured, not on the main card yet, but featured prelim so that a bunch of people see him. And then if he gets a great victory on that, I think he's fighting on a main card. Maybe, at like that, like end of the top 15 after that, if he gets a big win as a featured prelim. That's just like my weirdly specific prediction for him.
For sure.
How about that giant 205er that beat up the overweight Hawaiian on the Contender Series a couple weeks ago? You know who I'm talking about, Jason?
6'6" guy?
No, he's another like really just stocky. What was his name?
Who was it? Damn it, I'm gonna have to go back and I'm gonna see if I can find it.
It was extremely overmatched. Like
it was like two Contender Series ago.
Yeah, like the guy. It was the main event. The guy that he fought was a Hawaiian guy that looked like he could probably be a 170er. That was a little chunky 205er.
Oh, Coconut Bombs? Was that?
Yes.
He fought Coconut Bombs, right?
Yes.
I don't remember that dude's name, but I remember seeing that when I was doing breakdown that his name was Coconut Bombs. Hang on, I got you.
It's Tafani Chukwi.
Tafon Chukwi. William Knight's only professional loss before he fought on the Contender Series was to Tafon Chukwi, I think.
I think you could see them in.
I think they've fought before.
Yeah, they did. They fought the end of last year, and
Tafon won.
Yeah,
and he's undefeated. I would love that rematch.
I think that's a fight that you could see happen in the very near future.
Ooh, I love a rematch from outside the UFC too.
Good call. I like.
Yeah. I have that same question. I had a thought after the Juan Espino fight that we just talked about. Afterwards, I reactionarily said, but I was all excited after that fight. I was like, I want to see him get 2 wins real fast and then fight Alistair Overeem. I would love to. I would just a fantasy fight. I would love to see that. If it turns out that Juan Espino's the truth, I would love to see him fight Overeem before Overeem retires. I think that'd be a great matchup. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that'd be a very interesting matchup, I think.
I think that's going to be a hard one to get made happen. I mean, it'd be fun, but I think it's a hard one to make happen.
Yeah, No, I don't think it's going to happen.
Alistair's only looking to fight those guys that are ranked ahead of him at this point.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, definitely.
But it'd be fun.
Let's see.
Well, this is where the card started to get really interesting after that fight, because the next fight you had Shane Young and David Klein, which, Klein came in overweight, short notice fight, got a lot of criticism from Izzy after Izzy's win. With him showing up. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
On the weight thing or on that fight specifically?
Well, let's talk about both, but on the weight thing specifically, I mean, are you giving this guy a pass because it's a short notice fight, or are you on the side where, hey, he's a professional fighter. If he's taking that fight, he should be ready?
I think that it is set up right now where if you're fighting on a pay-per-view card or even like a big fight night in the UFC and your opponent comes in overweight and do you guys try to keep the podcast pretty PG, or do you guys
say whatever you want?
Oh, cool. Perfect. I think if your opponent comes in even like 5, 6, 7 pounds overweight, you look like a bitch to the wider UFC community if you turn down the fight, even though it's a good business move. If you've got a big heavy hitter guy coming in like a good amount overweight, you're at risk of getting your shit rocked, but you can't turn down the fight. Like you're going to Abu Dhabi. What are you gonna? I mean, you look like such a bitch if you turn down that fight to the wider community. I think there needs to be an easier avenue for a fighter to say, I don't want to fight this guy 6 pounds overweight. I don't want to. I mean, I think Klein would have won either way. I was completely wrong about him. I think he would have won if he was on weight. But I think it needs to be easier for the guy that's at the weight disadvantage to be able to turn down the fight, because that's the point of is they have that option to either take the extra money or to turn down the fight. And nobody ever turns down the fight.
Well,
So
go ahead, Zach.
So it took forever, we criticized NFL players, right? If NFL players didn't suck it up and play, they got cut, or there's no such thing as a concussion. You got your bell rung, right? And now we've learned how serious it is, and now they're taking it a little bit more serious, and they hold them out for a little bit longer, and there's better protocols, and they had to get over the stigma tough guy stuff, and I think they still have it a little bit. MMA's got to get to that point, because like you said, it's a bad business decision. This is their careers. Yes, they're fighters. Yes, they're savages. Yes, they're killers. They're all these things, but at the end of the day, this is their career, which is their livelihood. They've got to start making better business decisions. If Shane Young, and I think Dana understands too, and we've never really seen him just cut somebody for losing after somebody didn't make weight and whatever, and maybe the same result does happen, but we don't know. We don't know how bad it would have hurt him to lose those extra 4 or 5 pounds.
Yeah.
And so we don't, because of that, there needs to be some sort of protocol for if a fighter misses weight by more than a couple pounds.
The fight can't happen.
There needs to be, no, it's not even that. I'm not kidding. I'm actually in agreement with Izzy on this. The penalty needs to be harsher.
Yeah.
20 to 30% is not enough.
Isn't shit if you're winning on a pay-per-view card. It's worth the 30% to win.
Even with on a short notice fight to even keep the fight, does Klein get a little bit of leeway?
Nope.
No, if you take a fight at a weight class, you got to make it.
Yep.
Or you need to fight at a different weight class. You need to list yourself at a different weight class.
I agree. If you're taking that fight, if you're agreeing to that fight, whether it's short notice or not, I agree. I think he should be on weight.
Look at our boy Julian Erosa that we had on the podcast, Jason, right?
Juicy J, yeah.
Juicy J. They fought at a catch weight because he took the fight on 3 days' notice, and he goes, I can't get to 145 in 3 days, but I can get to 150. And the guy said, okay, and he came up to 150, and he made 150 because that's what he felt like he could make. He didn't think he could make 145. That has to happen more.
I agree with that.
Short notice fights, let him catch weight.
Yeah. Klein should have reached out to Young and said, hey, I ain't making 145. Let's make it.
Too. Oh, yeah. By that much,
Yeah.
I mean, because that means he took the fight on 8 days, right?
Yeah, it was like 8 days. Yeah. Yep.
He took the fight on 8 days to fight at 145. I bet when he took that fight, he was 170.
At least
on a scale.
165, 170, easy.
170 on a scale on the phone 8 days out saying, yeah, I'll get on a plane to Abu Dhabi. He probably was approaching welterweight.
And he might have believed that he can make it, but when it's that short notice, there's no variance for error, right?
Yeah.
And in Abu Dhabi, they don't exactly have, of all the great accommodations, they don't exactly have the appropriate weight cutting accommodations with all the COVID testings and restrictions too. Those guys are in their hotel rooms trying to cut weight.
Yeah. And again, business decision for the longevity of your career. Like, do you want to cut that much weight in 8 days? I mean, it's a great for a fight like on Fight Island, I get it. But in the grand scheme, just generally speaking, I think fighters are a little too eager to prove that they can cut a lot of weight in a short amount of time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, our next fight, by the way, that was an impressive head kick follow-up punch KO for Klein on that win.
He's a beast.
He is a beast.
He's a monster.
And we talked about it on our breakdown because a lot of guys were on Shane Young, but what was weird is Vegas had Klein as the favorite. I mean, it was even when we did the breakdown. By the time it was fight night, they had Klein as a slight favorite in that fight, who had never fought in the UFC before. That was saying something to me. We'll skip next to the highly anticipated Jake Matthews, Diego Sanchez fight. I think I'm getting more of a kick out of the memes coming out of this fight than anything else.
Yeah.
Did you see the meme where it says, Zach, were you the one that sent that to me, where it says when you
Yes.
order Jorge Masvidal and you got Diego Sanchez instead?
Oh yeah, Mom, I want Masvidal at home.
Yeah.
We've got Masvidal at home. Yeah.
I love what's his name tweeting that he would have never caught me with that knee because Diego Sanchez tried. Ben Askren, because Diego Sanchez tried to do the knee. He was leaning against the fence like Masvidal, and he came running out doing the jumping knee thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even think we need to break that fight down, do we?
I have a controversial thought about how that fight went and why it went for so long.
Sure. Let's hear it.
I think that Jake Matthews is an extremely talented professional fighter, but he's a young dude and there's still human beings in there. I think that he didn't really want to fuck up his idol. I think he didn't I think there were a couple places where I was expecting, I think there were a couple places in the fight where he could have gone a lot harder and really thrashed him and fucking, broke his nose with an elbow. And there were a couple points in the fight where I was like, Jake Matthews isn't gassed and he's not hurt. What's he doing right now? I think subconsciously, completely, of course, but I think he didn't really want to hurt Diego Sanchez. Like some fighters go in there and they want to kill their opponent. I don't know. It just seemed like it seemed like he wasn't trying as hard as he possibly could have to hurt the dude he was in the octagon with.
I mean, he jacked up his face pretty good by the
Didn't
end.
he say that he had watched Diego Sanchez
and that's
like 11 years old on The Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah, like his favorite fighter that inspired him to get into martial arts. Yeah. And that was like a big thing that they were promoting too. But I mean, I didn't. It seemed like he could have gone a lot harder, and I know he handily won that fight, but it seemed like he could have gone a lot harder.
Yeah, I think so. What's next for Jake Matthews? Because he's on quite a little streak now. I take that back. He's won 3 in a row.
If people on the internet would stop freaking out and just look at UFC matchups objectively, I would honestly kind of want to see him fight Khamzat, because I don't think that I don't want to see Khamzat fight a guy that's top 5 like everybody keeps saying. I don't know why that's a thing. I would want to see a guy like Jake Matthews fight him.
If you're Jake Matthews, F that. Are you kidding me? He'd get mopped.
That's what I'd want to see.
That's an
He'd
interesting.
get mopped.
Mopped? Just absolutely
mopped.
You're super hot on the Khamzat train?
I'm all
Zach
aboard, all on it.
Zach is all over.
I want him to fight
You want to
Usman.
see him fight for a title in 2 fights?
I want to see him fight Usman in 2 fights, and his 3rd fight, I want him to see him fight Izzy. I don't even care.
Jesus.
He's
Until
not ready.
I see it.
I
I don't care. No, the fight is, and I saw it. And for my boy Chimaev, that the next fight is Neil Magny. That's the fight I want to see.
That makes sense.
Neil's he's no punk, and if he rolls Neil, then it's
off to the races.
It's off. It is all go. But when you do what you do in your first 2 fights, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna feed him to this guy, a legit 185er who's been around for a while, and he's a tough dude. He's no Gerald Merchant. It's no punk himself, and he just starches him the way he did. It's like, what do you do with this guy?
Yeah.
You give him to somebody like Neil Magny, who's been in the game, legit striking. He's a big problem at 170 because of his size and how long he is. He kind of messes everybody up, and he's he's a really, really good grappler. So I think it's fun.
Yeah.
You're a pump the brakes on the Chimaev train, huh?
I think man. I
also think the Heat are going to get swept. What do you know?
Maybe I don't know if that makes me a realist or a pessimist, but yeah, man. I don't know. I'm not pumped the brakes on the Chimaev train. I just because it's blowing. He wouldn't be 10, 15 years ago, he wouldn't be moving up this fast because there wouldn't be Instagram and Twitter and social media,
yeah.
And so he'd still be a hot prospect as opposed to right now where I think people are talking about him like he's a number 2 contender in a weight division when he's only got 3 fights in the UFC. So yeah, I guess I am pumped the brakes.
Okay, yeah, you are. So, but just a question.
wouldn't be a bad matchup for him. He's been in the UFC for 3 years, 4 years now.
Which one?
Jake Matthews. It's actually not a bad.
Dude, he'd get
I
mopped.
think he would, but
See, and they can't make that fight because everybody like you would say that he'd get mopped, so nobody would want to even see it.
Do it. I'd do it. Make the fight.
make it.
And then schedule Neil Magny for the next weekend.
For the same weekend?
Sure.
Yeah, schedule him.
Man, if they, you know what? I'll tell you what. If they still did tournament style stuff like they did for like UFC 1 style, if they still did that, Khamzat would be a fucking title holder. I'll say that.
Yeah.
If they had to fight more than once in a night, I'm taking Khamzat to beat everybody.
All right. So I know Khamzat didn't fight, and I've talked about him way too much.
Yeah.
I've talked about him way too much, but I'm just gonna say this. At what point at 170, from what you've seen, at what point of 170 do you feel like he fights somebody that he has to fight through some adversity?
Thompson or Magny, maybe?
Because you're going to hate me for what I say this.
I think he gets ran by any of the dudes in the top 5 at 170.
Ooh.
Including like Colby and stuff. Like I think there's a bunch of dudes at welterweight that would run him. But if I'm wrong, he's going to end up winning a title. So, what do you think?
Gosh, I mean that top 5 is Colby Burns, Leon, Masvidal, and Thompson.
I think
with
Usman. I think Usman, Colby, Burns.
You got to put Covington in there.
That's why I said Colby.
Yeah, Colby.
You think beat him?
I think those guys make him at least fight through adversity. But if he's built the right way, and I'm not saying throw him in there like tomorrow with those guys.
That's what I'm thinking is like if he fought any of those guys, like
no, I'm saying as he progresses up through, at what point? Because like I think as long as they take the
what his skill ceiling is, I think he could definitely. There's a path where he definitely wins a title someday. Skill ceiling in the future for sure.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't think it's someday. I think it's. No, I think he beats a Neil Magny, and then I think maybe a Vicente Luque, and then like a Leon Edwards, and then he's the champ. I think he's like 3 to 4 fights away.
Word, and then we have like a 7-0 champion.
Yeah, sure. and then he goes up and he fights Izzy by the end of next fall.
I think there's some dudes at 185 that would give him a much bigger problem than the guys at welterweight. I think
for sure
he needs to. If career decision, he should fight at welterweight if he's going to pick one.
For sure. He's not sure. Izzy's way bigger than him. Izzy's like 4 inches taller, got like a 5-inch reach. Yeah, and a 5-inch reach advantage over him too. Like
Izzy could be a light heavyweight easily. And like Costa, Costa would give Chimaev some problems, I feel like, too.
If he would try to punch him.
Well, when you get laid kick 100 times in the same spot
We'll get there.
All right, enough of Chimaev.
All right.
That's my fault.
Brad Riddle, Alex De Silva, which I think we all agreed on our breakdown. That was a great fight. Great back and forth fight. Close. Did you guys both agree with the decision?
Yes.
Yeah.
Burner, what'd you think? You agreed with it too? Yeah, I thought
I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I thought it was good because they kind of said that De Silva would kind of fade to like some adversity there. And they said it on the broadcast, like that Riddle felt like if De Silva felt some adversity and stuff that he'd crack under the pressure. And you saw him kind of start to a little bit, but he kind of dug down and pushed back a little bit. It was a good fight.
Yeah. That was a great fight. Next one was split decision. Takurov and Dawudi, which I actually thought Hakeem he had a good chance going into this fight, and I thought he won. I thought the decision was right. You guys have any other different takes on that?
I think that was one where there was a card that went 30-27, right? One of the cards went 30-27.
Yep.
I thought that was wrong.
Yeah.
But I thought that was super wrong. I distinctly remember looking at my TV and seeing the scores from saying Bruce Buffer saying the scores from each judge and being like, what the fuck? 30-27 what? 30 I didn't even know which fighter it was going to be for because it was 30-27. I was like, I don't know what that is. But I agree that he won in the grand scheme. I think the right guy got to win on his record.
Yeah, Hakeem could be a problem.
I hate the fact that Zabira was trying to coast to a decision.
Yeah.
At the end, in the last 30 seconds, yeah.
He was trying not to fight. It was more than 30 seconds.
It was,
I felt like he was trying not to engage for a couple of minutes in that third round.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day,
he was definitely actively like walking backwards.
Yeah. And I felt like he was, I mean, I don't think you can not fight the way he did in the third round and deserve to win a fight ever.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, this is a sport and it's supposed to be competing. If you want to get out of there early, finish your opponent. Otherwise, you need to fight. Now, you could fight strategically without putting yourself in danger with still some sort of engagement. He didn't even seem like he wanted to engage for the last half of that third round. Anytime you see a fighter do that, I would have been pissed if he would have won that fight.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that
Dana would have been pissed if he won that fight.
Yeah, Dana would have been pissed. Next up,
I never want to see this guy fight again.
Yeah. Next up, we had Vieira and Sarge Eubanks. I don't remember how the breakdown went on our breakdown in there. I thought initially Vieira. I did think I was on Eubanks, but I thought Vieira. I mean, she's bigger, stronger. I just thought she did what she needed to do to win the fight.
Yeah, I liked my reasoning for picking Eubanks, and I'm still a fan of Sarge Eubanks. And I think it was still good money betting, even though she lost. I mean, that was a smart pick on that. Vieira's just big and strong, and any weaknesses that we weren't sure if we were going to see because she had been out for a while did not appear, and she just kind of handily showed up and showed us that she is definitely in contention.
Yeah, she'll be. It'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend with the girl that beat her, Aldana, and Holly Holmes fighting this weekend.
Yeah,
because she might have just put herself right back up there.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, obviously, there's no reason to because you can fight Amanda at either weight class. But I could almost see her. She's one of the very few that I could see fighting at featherweight.
She has a legit featherweight body.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's big. She's got that like Ronda Rousey like shoulder bigness to her.
Yeah.
It's like that's a big girl. Like she's got some muscle on her.
She's built
for sure.
Yeah, but again, there's no reason to move up to featherweight if you're a bantamweight because there's less people to fight and you still have to fight Amanda.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. Maybe she could fight like that. You guys see that Danielle Wolf girl fight on the Contender Series?
Yeah.
She's big. I want to see. I just like watching her fight. She's huge.
She's jacked, man.
I want to see her fight a fucking welterweight. Like Jesus.
Chimaev.
Yeah. You put her in there with Chimaev for him, dude. She's jacked. Like
I think she's taller than Chimaev is. She's 6 feet.
Is she? Yeah, I think she was 6 feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I don't think she deserved a contract after that fight, but hey, I get it. It's hard to find girls that big.
Jason was so mad.
Furious. Well, for
that
one,
she got a contract.
Yes, I was furious. I'm like, how are they going to give it to her? But
he was so bad.
It's either that or cancel the division at a certain point, though. So
after I thought about it, she is marketable. Like she's a cuter girl. She's got a look to her, so she's definitely marketable. So
she looks good with Reebok apparel on the poster for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Next up from Saturday night was probably fight of the night, in my opinion, was Brandon Royval and Kai Kara France. Man, that was a great fight.
Yeah. Holy shit. They came out. In the first 30 seconds of that fight, I literally was sitting on the edge of my seat. Like, is somebody going to get knocked out? Holy shit. Like, I thought we were going to have like a first 60 seconds knockout there for a second.
Well, Kara France, he dropped him and then
he got dropped.
And then he got dropped.
Spinning elbow was so sick.
My wife like a reaction.
Yeah, that was right on the jaw too. I don't think Kara France really ever recovered from that. He didn't, even though he was still throwing back and still fighting. I think after that
I think it mentally shook him.
Yeah, you could see it.
Yeah, and then he was more susceptible probably on the ground, I would imagine too. After you're not quite as aware of. You got that little bit in your head there. You can't think ahead 3 chess moves with this crazy wrestler. Like, okay, well, if I go here and then he goes here, I'm going to have my arm here and then he's going to go for an arm bar. But then if I fight that, he's going to try to choke me out. Brandon Royval is crazy.
Dude, he's for flyweight, he's 5'9". Like he's my height and he weighs 125 pounds. I outweigh him by 80 pounds.
Yeah. You know what? With the way he fights, though, I don't think he should ever move up past like bantamweight. I don't think he should ever get bigger than like 135 with the way he fights.
He can't. He's gonna cause problems. I'm telling, dude. The fight, him and Brandon Moreno is a banger. Those two, with Moreno's wrestling and boxing versus somebody like Brandon, I think that fight that's your number one contender fight.
I'm gonna have to get it. The men's flyweight division is the division that I watch the least. Out of all 12. So
for sure,
even less than women's strawweight. I'm gonna have to catch up.
But I love Brandon Moreno. I watched him on The Ultimate Fighter, and I was super impressed with him. And Brandon Royval already beat the winner of that season in The Ultimate Fighter, Tim Elliott.
Yeah, he's crazy. And he has a style of fight, because there's some guys where we see him go in there and they're, heavy volume punchers or they're knockout artists or something. And with that, there's like a wall you hit where it's like, if you're moving your way up in the heavyweight division, like there's a wall you hit where you have to fight like Stipe and Francis Ngannou, and they're going to knock you the fuck out. But with the way that he fights, I think he's got a possibility of beating anybody, because it's anybody's game once you're on the ground and you're both expert level grapplers and wrestlers. It becomes a more even playing field than if you're trying to slug it out with a dude that's gonna knock you out. And so I could see him beating anybody on any night with the way he fights. It's just a good way to win fights.
Yeah, he's aggressive.
Yeah.
And I think he has one of the best nicknames.
Brandon Raw Dog Royval, brought to you by Trojan.
It's up there with Touchy Feely, with Andre Touchy Feely for me.
Somebody changed theirs. Shane Young changed his nickname before the fight this weekend.
Really?
His nickname was Sugar Shane Young, and Bruce Buffer. He had Bruce Buffer say "Smokin' Shane Young" at the start of the fight. He changed his nickname in between promo and the fight.
I don't like it. That's why I lost.
You can't take sugar out of your nickname. There's just too much there.
And smoking is not a better one.
No, you got to keep sugar in there.
Yeah.
That's why he lost. Yeah, I'm with Zach. That's why he lost.
That is definitely why he lost.
Well,
you think he changes it back?
Probably should. Maybe his opponent will make weight next time.
Yeah, he was the one that missed weight too. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't like that.
No. Co-main event, Jan Blachowicz, which I know Berner and I were both on the Blachowicz Jan train on our breakdown. Everybody else is on Reyes. I said
told you so earlier. You can tell me told you so now.
It's okay. I told everybody so all week. Before our breakdown, I was saying it.
Here's what I thought happened, and me and Zach and I talked about this before we got on here. I think Reyes got a little overconfident. I think he was hearing all the buzz about him, that he basically beat John Jones. And I think it went to his head. I think he thought he was just going to go in there and steamroll Jan, and it didn't happen. What was your thoughts? Go ahead, Berner.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, which is crazy because he's such a good fighter. I think Dominic Reyes thinks he's a better fighter than he is. I think Dominic Reyes thinks he could fight like Francis Ngannou. I think he thinks he could fight. I think Dominic. Yeah, I agree. It just supreme overconfidence on his part that led to him. You can't ever assume you're going to win the fight.
I think that overconfidence showed. I think it showed.
I disagree with that. I think that's what makes most of those fighters unique and special. They always think they're going to win.
Yeah,
that's why we have the podcast. Do you think it kind of went to his head though, that he's like everybody say?
I do, and everybody knows it. DC talked about it after he beat Stipe. When you feel like you've reached that level, you do take some liberties in your training, and you do. And I think that Dominic Reyes, in his head, you could watch the fight. I'm one of the few I know that felt like Jones actually did win that fight. On my score sheet, but
I thought John Jones won that fight. I was not mad that John Jones won that fight.
Nope, and I don't even like John Jones, but that's in real time. I thought John won the fight because I thought Dominic was fighting not to lose after the first 2 rounds.
Yeah,
and it cost him. But he's hearing all this, and think about just the natural competitor and natural person though too. He went toe to toe for 5 rounds. And is being told it could have been a coin flip, and it could have been. All it takes is one judge's decision or whatever could have won that fight, or one or two people's opinion that says he won the fight, that he beat arguably the greatest in-cage performer of all time. Be the first one to ever really hand John a loss. And he believed that. And once you ascend to that level, your confidence, you are going to think you're ready to go up and fight a Stipe, maybe even beat a Francis Ngannou, whatever. He has another thing that I thought was very interesting. He had his 3 brothers in his corner. It could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. But if he has 3 brothers in his corners, also tells me he probably doesn't have a world-class camp. If you want to be a world-class fighter, you probably got to have a world-class camp.
They were saying that he was going back to what got him there.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I think he prides himself on being like he's kind of got that like cool, approachable, like street fighter personality style to him where he's like, he's doing interviews on the side of the road. He's like, yeah, man, I'm going to whoop his ass. I feel great. I feel the best I've ever felt. He's got almost that like kind of Rocky, not Rocky, Creed. What's his name in Creed? The fucking Michael B. Jordan in Creed. He's got that like cool swagger.
Creed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the kid Apollo too? Michael B. Jordan?
No. Yeah, you're talking about Michael B. Johnson.
Michael B. Jordan in Creed. He's got that like cool swagger to him where he's like, I'm a fighter, I think he convinced himself that he beat John Jones. I mean, in the grand scheme, he didn't win the fight. The judges decided that he didn't win the fight, but I think he convinced himself that he did, and he was supposed to be the champion, and that it was his belt that he was fighting for. And
Jan brought it to him. So what do you think, Jan?
I think Jan is just a consummate professional. I think all Jan does is, in my head, all Jan does is fucking hit stuff with sledgehammers all day long and like run sprints up mountains, and then he comes to the octagon to fight once every couple months, and he's just a monster. That's in my head. That's what this man's doing.
Yeah.
Doesn't everybody want to see John come down and fight him now, though?
I didn't want John to go up to heavyweight in the first place, but now that he said he's going to fucking do it, I want him to fucking fight somebody at heavyweight.
Yeah.
I'll fight John Jones at this point. Just fucking put him in the octagon. Jesus Christ.
Get him in there.
John's doing something. Me and Jason had this conversation. I think John's doing something that is super necessary for the sport of MMA. If you feel like you're worth something to the UFC, the biggest promotion in the world, and they are not willing to give it to you, at some point, for fighters' overall pay and the health of the sport, at some point, some of these big names do need to say, hold some leverage and to the point where Dana gets so irritated that people are asking him, what's John doing? What's John doing? What's John doing? That he finally wants to go to John and wiggle off his hardline stance of, I'm not going to negotiate anymore. Because let's be honest, I don't know what John makes, but he's worth more than he makes. Because he's you guys that casuals or somebody like my dad, who's not even a fan of MMA, if John Jones is fighting, my dad knows John, knows his backstory a little bit, and is kind of interested in the fight just from the perspective that John's fighting. Right? Yeah.
It's like a Conor McGregor style draw. It's sports.
It's different.
It's not even
different.
MMA. Yeah.
It's different, right? And you're seeing the same thing with Conor. Conor's not getting what he's wanting. He pulls the whole I'm retired, blah, 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 until this last week or two. But, it's different. So I think what John is doing is necessary, but at the same time, too, he can't do it to the point where he makes himself irrelevant like Nick Diaz has. Because Nick Diaz has kind of made himself irrelevant from a standpoint. But as soon as he signs for a contract, it'll be huge again once we know that he's actually fighting. So all that being said, if you're John Jones, you need to go back. You need to go fight Jan because there's nothing for you at heavyweight right now.
Yeah.
Unless Brock Lesnar is coming back to the coming back to the UFC.
I loved watching Brock fight
because that's easy money for John, and it's a huge draw.
Huge fight, yeah.
Who do you guys think John beats? And like, where do you think he beats Stipe? I mean, where does the buck stop for you? Think he beats Stipe? Do you think he beats Francis?
That one I don't know.
I think he has.
Feel like. Go ahead, Jason.
I think he has a better chance against Francis. Stipe's just too big, man. I think the same thing happened in the Cormier fight. I think eventually Stipe's strength wears him down.
Yeah, but dude, John not having to cut weight and he'll start lifting stuff, John will be every bit of a 235 to 240. He'll be the same size as Stipe.
It's harder to kick somebody in the head when your legs weigh more.
But he's not a natural heavyweight. Like he's just, I don't know. I mean,
he's kind of skinny. I think he's naturally shaped like a light heavyweight. He's not big. He's not big. I think the only guys that should fight at heavyweight are guys that fall in the upper half of the division.
Well, I know you haven't listened to our previous podcast, but I'm a big believer is they have to start developing a 225-pound division.
I like that.
The in-between?
In-between, yeah.
It's too big of a weight class.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 60-pound gap is ridiculous.
That's probably, well, what's Stipe comes in at only like 230, right?
Yeah, 235.
Yeah.
So he, a younger Stipe might even cut down to that new weight class instead, and then leave heavyweight for the dudes that are like,
legit 265ers
that have to cut to 265.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the only division that there's people that just don't have to cut, and that's
the Wild West. The traditionalist in me loves the like Wild Westiness of the heavyweight division, though. It's like, hey, if you're over 206 pounds, you're fighting with the big boys.
Sure, and I get that. So the thing is with John, right? And I do like that. I mean, make no mistake. Like I want to see him fight Jan because he did leave before he cleaned out the division, and we'll talk about that with the main event. And I like that. That's where Izzy's head is at, is he wants to go he wants to actually clean out the division, and I think that's great, and I think it's good for the sport. John didn't clean out the division. He had a very viable contender in Jan, and he said no, thank you. John's athleticism beat Stipe. But Ngannou's power and athleticism neutralizes a lot of I think they have a weird trio.
Triangle.
Yeah, I think Stipe beat Ngannou. I think Ngannou could very easily beat Jones, but I think Jones beat Stipe just because of attributes.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, I don't know if I'm super biased towards the heavyweight boys because I love Stipe so much, but I think Stipe and Ngannou both win without... I think they both beat him better than he beat Dominic Reyes.
Okay. By the way, I tune in to watch John Jones because I pray and I want to watch him eventually just get knocked out.
Yeah. Well, that's that's Francis then.
I watch what I want to see.
Could be Jan too.
But I want to see Francis fight Stipe first.
But how much better would it be if it was Jan that knocked him out?
It could very well be Jan. Yeah.
And Jan hits different. So the fight that I actually thought that John lost was the Thiago Santos fight. Okay. And I think Jan presents a lot of those issues that John had.
I think Jan is a harder matchup for John than Dominic Reyes is.
So do I.
Yeah.
I think Santos and Jan are because of their power.
Yeah.
A little more experience too. Both those guys are a little more experienced.
And then
yeah, Reyes is a little green.
What I just from a purely business concern standpoint, John is he's in a great position where he can decide what he wants to do and he can kind of dictate what he wants to do, but he's also in a position where he could really fuck up. Because if there's a situation where he goes back down and fights Jan and loses and then fights somebody at heavyweight and then loses, those are both distinct possibilities. And then what happens to John Jones after that when he's lost in both weight divisions?
He goes and snorts a whole bunch of coke.
And gets another DUI, you're right.
It's another DUI. Oh, man.
I think John Jones is not as high on my list of like all-time UFC fighters as he is on a lot of people's list. I don't think he's the best pound for pound fighter in the UFC right now. Is he on the top of the pound for pound list right now?
Yes.
I saw your tweet on there and I thought that was one of the things I wanted to talk. For me, it's hard to go against him. I mean,
his resume, how can you say that with his resume?
His body of work,
I think Izzy's body of work is very underrated. That's why I said that. John's definitely in the. I think for me it's Khabib and then Izzy and then John right now for people that are in the UFC.
I think
John, right now today or their body of work or for their career.
Pound for pound rankings right now.
Right now.
Right now it's John.
Because that was the tweet that I was responding to was where is John on your pound for pound rank, or where's Izzy on your pound for pound rankings right now? On like an all-time legacy list that requires all kind of weird things with like George St. Pierre and fucking all those guys back in the day too. But like pound for pound right now, like if everybody had their same skill set and athleticism and ability to move, but they were all 265 pounds and they fought, That's where I'm at on who wins. Is we go Khabib, and then we go Izzy, and then we go John, and then I figure it out past there.
Where's Chimaev on your list?
I'm with you on that. I agree with that. I actually agree with that. I do. Body of work wise, though, all time, I would say Jones, but right now, pound per pound, I could go with that. I'm 100% on that.
Yeah,
and really,
and people keep saying it's like, oh, well, Izzy and John should fight. Izzy and John should fight. If John Jones got down to 185 pounds, I think Izzy would beat his ass. If Izzy went up, that would be. I don't think Izzy would do that. That would be a stupid move. That's not how he's shaped. But if John Jones somehow got down to middleweight and fought Izzy, I think Izzy would beat his ass. He'd be too skinny.
I think Izzy in the next 2 years fights John Jones at 205 and beats him.
At 205?
Mm-hmm.
I think
interesting.
He needs to get his gyno removed before his next fight. That's all I'm going to say.
Yo, that was some bodybuilder shit. What the fuck was that?
So we were watching.
I noticed it instantly.
Yeah. So we were watching the fight. We were watching the fight with one of my coaches and somebody that used to train with so he used to train at Black House with who some would argue is the greatest striker of all time, maybe before or after Izzy. And that certain famous striker's bodybuilding coach had the same thing. And he asked him, he's like, why are your nipples like that, dude? And he said, cocaine.
Wow.
He said cocaine does that to him. And so that's what my coach was telling me. And he's like, that's the only way I know that. Either his estrogen levels are way too high, or that dude's doing or that dude is doing way too much cocaine.
That's the only thing that I've ever heard of people. I mean, you could get it from like conditions with your thyroid and stuff.
Or he could have torn his pec, right? He could have had a torn pec at some point that would have caused that.
Yeah.
But that was funky.
That was weird. And the only situation I'm used to seeing that like on bodybuilders on stage. Like that's where you see it is guys that fucked up coming off their test cycle and their estrogen spiked and they ended up with a floppy titty. Yeah.
And they have to get a lot of times once they have it, they have to get it surgically removed because it doesn't go away. It could go down, but it won't go away.
No, it's not. It's people get confused. Yeah. People get confused and think it's like normal body fat that you can lose, and that's not what it is.
It's not. I have friends that have had to have it removed.
It's breast tissue. It's your body's whole system. Like the extra estrogen convinces your body to produce, because we all come from the same set of cells.
Yep.
It convinces your body to produce breast tissue. That's where that comes from.
I love this so much. The memes are never going to end with Izzy. Oh my gosh. I mean, now my head's exploding because like, did you hear him in the press fight? Somebody asked him about it and he's like,
why are they looking at my titties?
Why are you looking at my titties? And he's like, I don't know. You'd have to ask them. And he's like, yeah. And he just moves on. I'm like,
shout out to him for skating by it though. Cause if he's cheating, that's a great way to skate by it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he is.
I don't think so. Like he doesn't have the body type to frame.
Has anybody else ever heard of the cocaine thing though?
I've never heard of it.
Because I would not put that past. I would not put that past Izzy at all.
We don't need to go into my body of work prior to getting into MMA reporting, but that's not a thing.
All right.
But me and John Jones got a similar body of work, and I've never seen that in my life.
So did either one of you guys think that the main event was going to go any other way than it did? Because I think we were all in agreement that before we left.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna go to the championship rounds.
I thought Costa was gonna try.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be a better fight.
He didn't even
try.
He didn't do anything.
I think those first couple leg kicks, they changed his mind. Zach, you broke it down. You broke it down when we were on the phone before we got on the podcast about you don't really know how somebody's going to react and how they're going to be in the cage until you stand there in front of them. And until you feel their power, and I think that's what happened to Costa. I think he kind of underestimated it a little bit, and when he felt those leg kicks, it messed with him.
You got to go for like a takedown or an overhand right or a leg kick of your own or a sweep or a fucking like anything besides taking 20 of them, right? Though I mean, you got to do anything else.
If you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu and at the weigh-ins, and then you make fun of the white belt, you better try and take him down at some point.
I think after those leg kicks and after he got touched a few times, I think he realized I'm too slow. I don't think I can do anything.
Harrison, you box, yeah?
Yeah.
So have you ever boxed with somebody that you never trained with them and you've watched them for a while and then you're like, yeah, we do it, and you go and you touch gloves and they do something to you and it like kind of catches you off guard and you kind of freeze for a little bit?
They just move a little different. Yeah.
Then you
where you like see it and you're like, oh,
yeah,
fuck,
you're like,
the last three dudes, they moved like that and it went somewhere else than where you just went with it. Yeah.
So I think that's what I think happened to Costa. I talked to Jason on the phone about this earlier, but this is what I think happened to Costa, and I really do. I think he watched Izzy. I think he felt like he was ready for Izzy. I don't feel like that his confidence was posturing by any means. I thought he was going to go in there and he was going to do his thing and you know, do what he did to UL, you know, throw in the fire and do things. And then he got in there, and when you start the feeling out process, he realized that he was in there with something different than he realized, and he froze. Yeah. And all he could do was like, if he hits me with those leg kicks, like he starts talking to him, and then I think he went into this whole like, maybe I can bait him into something. And I think that might've been part of it. But dude, the problem with Izzy is, like I said, he's had over 100 fights in combat sports. He's not getting baited into anything. He's not going to do anything outside of exactly what he wants to do in there.
Yeah. Yeah, he is really, I mean, whatever you want to say about his shit talking and everything that goes on outside of the ring, when we're talking about him fighting, he is a consummate professional.
His fight IQ is through the roof.
And he might have the highest fight IQ of anybody in the UFC.
I think if you tested his just like raw, like brain synapse reaction reflexes, he would, I think, definitely be the highest out of every UFC fighter. He would be up there with like top NFL wide receivers type shit and cornerbacks and like he's seeing shit faster than we are.
Well, he understands things too a different way. Joe Rogan talked about this, and like I said, one of my coaches used to train with Anderson Silva, Lyoto Machida, all those guys at Black House, and they spend the first few minutes to the first round feinting constantly, right? They're constantly feinting, switching and stuff. And all they're doing through all this is they're downloading information about how you react to things. And they are building combinations and things that they know are going to work based off their feints. And Izzy has the ability to do that. And there's not really anybody else in the UFC right now that does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not at that level.
I would love to see him do a like high level boxing match. Like we see why is Conor boxing Manny Pacquiao? I'd watch Izzy fight I'd watch Izzy for a fucking bag go and fight like a top level boxer at that same weight class.
I think he'd have a better shot than Conor, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if we're sending fighters over, send over the ones that can actually have boxed professionally before. Like send over the ones that are good at it. I mean, his kickboxing matches are great too. If you ever want to see a highlight reel of Izzy knockouts that you haven't seen before, just head over to his 80 fight kickboxing career and you'll see all kinds of shit over there.
But it's different. He's just on a different level striking wise. And like, I think it's great that Darren Till thinks that he can go in there and strike with him, but anybody that goes in there and decides that they're going to go in there and strike with Izzy, it's going to end really bad for him.
Do you think there's anybody out there that beats him in the next 12 months?
Not a striker.
No.
I don't think he loses. I just straight up don't think he's going to lose for a while.
I think the only person that could beat him, and I'm not saying Chimaev would beat him, I'm saying somebody with a skill set that's like a heavy base, that's a competent striker, but is an elite grappler that could at least get close enough to him to grab him. And because we haven't seen anybody be able to take him down and hold him down yet.
Costa was supposed to be able to do that though, right? I mean,
but
he was supposed to have the
was not his
advantage
game
on the
plan.
ground.
Yeah.
But that wasn't his game plan. He was going to go in there and he was going to beat him in his own game. Which
if you go in there looking for a takedown, aren't you going to get knocked the fuck out?
Yeah.
If if you do it incorrectly. But if you use your striking to close the distance and you do things correctly to create a clinch and then maybe some trips or whatever, Izzy's just so athletic and he's so long and his balance is unreal. Like, I mean, it's going to take a really long time.
His experience. I mean, with over 100 fights, like, and 100 wins.
That was his 100th career professional martial arts combat sports win.
I mean, a guy like Chimaev is, with all the hype he has, I mean, he's too green. He just, right now, it's going to take a guy that has some experience that can kind of match that. And I don't think there is anybody. I'm with you on that one, Harrison. I don't think there's.
No. And none of those light heavyweight boys, all those light heavyweight boys are supposed to weigh that much. None of them are going to move down. No one in the welterweight division is tall enough to move up to fight Izzy. Like,
yeah, I just don't.
Does Jack Hermanson give him any problem? He's a pretty good grappler.
Give
him any problems?
I think Izzy. I don't think there's a fighter in the UFC right now that gives him any problems.
I mean, Cannonier.
I thought Paulo Costa was going to. I almost had myself convinced that Costa was going to win that fight. That was. I mean, now I'm convinced. I'm on the Izzy train. I'm driving the Izzy train.
It's funny because Zach and I were talking when they first announced this fight with Paulo Costa. We both were saying to each other, he's too fast. His fight IQ is too high. He's too fast. And then we kind of got on that train of, damn, maybe Costa does, push the pace a little bit, get him up, make it a little dirtier fight, get him down. Something showed me when he was walking into the cage and when he was in the cage, you didn't see any antics from him like you do in his normal fights. He wasn't dancing.
He's taking him serious.
He took him serious. He came in there with, I mean, he was ready to fight. I was like, oh shit, like he's not messing around like he was before. And
I think he understands that he's the champion, and at least like he's got to hold himself that way at certain points. I think he's not. I don't think he's ever gonna lay off the gas and lose a fight because he didn't take it seriously enough.
So let me ask you this then, because you just said you don't think anybody is even there. Right?
Well, anybody that can fight at 185.
Okay, 185er that's there. How come then? Was it just the night? How come Kelvin gave him such fits?
That was weird. That was odd. That was
2-2 going into the fifth round.
Yeah, and I'm not high on the Kelvin Gastelum cage. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. Styles make matchups, I guess. That's all I can say. I don't know about you, Harrison, but
if they fight again, do you think it's good? It's a close fight like that again?
No, I don't. I think Kelvin's. I think Kelvin's dropped down a tier, and we see that all the time. Alexander Gustafsson, right? They get to what they think is the top, and they're right there, and then they lose that fight, and then they kind of just lose steam. Well, I think Kelvin's there, but there was something in that fight that Kelvin had a lot of success in that fight.
I think that was. I mean, everybody's got the one, and I think that there's actually an interview from before this fight from some promo during fight week where Izzy talks about that, where he's like, every great like martial arts movie you watch, it's got the one chapter where he finds the dude that can beat him. And I think that was my last fight against Gastelum, and I just happened to pull it out and actually get a win anyways. But I think that was my weak moment, and we're all uphill from here. And I kind of see that. That was his Tokyo Buster Douglas right there. But he just managed to scrape a win out instead of taking an L. And so now I think it's just uphill from here. I think that was the one where I think that was his shape. He got his bell rung by almost losing. Or like by even being close to losing. And so I would imagine that now he's like, I'm never doing that again. I'm just going to win everything.
No disrespect, but I think Jared Cannonier, he mops him.
You think Izzy mops him? Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant Cannonier mops him. I was like, whoa. We were just, hang on.
That's on the same page here.
We got to reopen that discussion then.
I think Jack Hermanson can cause some issues. And I like that he's a little more experienced with 26 pro fights versus, some of these guys. Cannonier's got 17 pro fights. Like, that's just not enough. Costa had only had 13 pro fights. That's just not enough to fight somebody that's been in there competing at that level for that long. But
I think they got to find a new dude.
Yeah.
They need a new dude.
Yeah, I'm kind of stuck. Jared Cannonier doesn't really do it for me either. I think he walks through him as well.
Can we get a cross promotion and let him fight Gegard? That'd be fun.
I think he walks through him too.
So do I, but I think it'd be fun.
So if you're Izzy and you got nobody left good to fight, I mean, he just called out Cannonier. Let's assume he wins that fight.
He fights 2 more times at 185 at least. He fights the winner of Cannonier Whitaker. He fights the winner of those two, and then he fights the winner of Till and Jack Hermanson.
And then we see him go up to light heavyweight.
Yep.
What do you how do you think he'd do against Jan? Like if his next fight was moving up to light heavyweight, how do you think he does in that fight?
It's interesting, but I think his fight IQ is too high.
Man, can you imagine an extra 20 pounds at weigh-in on him too? Imagine how hard he could hit. Holy shit. Because he's skinny, right? He's skinny.
Skinny.
And it works because he's got those high-ass kicks, but I mean, if he could just right hook somebody to death.
This was the other thing. One of the main things I kept going back to with why I thought he'd beat Costa easily. And I did predict a second round knockout. I just thought it was going to be a highlight head kick. And it was a freaking hook off the temple. But he did land that high kick. The thing with him is, dude, he in kickboxing, you watch, he fought heavyweights in kickboxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do weird shit over in kickboxing, huh?
You know, I don't think 205 is a big problem with him fighting those big, more physically imposing guys unless they can take him down. But I think on the feet, he beats all of them. He's way like Dominic Cruz or Dominic Reyes, Thiago Santos, like all those murderers up there. He beats all of them on the feet.
Yeah.
He's way too good.
Yeah.
He is levels ahead. And so if that's where he wants to go after, I mean, can I tell you the honest reason why I think John Jones is interested in fighting Jan? Because if he beats Jan, then he can sit there and he's waiting for Izzy. But I think it's going to be harder for him to get the huge money fight if he goes up to heavyweight and then to have to come back down to 205.
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to just make up his mind.
Were either one of you, what did you guys think of his post-fight antics? Anyone, did it bother either one of you guys? Do you think it was disrespectful, or do you think he was in line with with what he did with him humping him after he kind of humped him and
shit, bro, with all the shit they were talking, we love to see this spectacle of them all talking shit and throwing shit at each other and throwing hands over Dana's head at the pre-fight. And then when a dude's actually a little bit vindictive at the end, everybody wants to freak out. Shit, man, it's the UFC, it's combat sports. He's the champion, the undisputed champion of the world. I don't give a fuck what he does. I love it. Go off, shit. How much money did he just get for that? Like, I love it. I'm not bothered by it at all. It's not a sport that's supposed to appeal to the wider audience anyways. It's not supposed to be a PG sport in the first place. It didn't bother me.
What are your thoughts, Zach?
I don't like the humping thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't like it, but
I think they're so you're right about all of it, right? The reason why I say why I can't stand NBA and NFL thug, tough guys, whatever, is because at the end of the day, or baseball, at the end of the day,
it's a front.
In MMA, like when Connor says all that stuff, it's okay. The reason why I say it's okay, because he actually gets in the cage and fights those dudes. And he's never pulled out of a fight. You can say whatever you want, because guess what? At some point, you're going to be locked in a cage with that dude.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, too, if you want this sport to be viewed as a mainstream sport, and you want this sport to be viewed get to that level of NBA, NFL, and stuff like that, at the end of the day, it's still sport. And there should be a level of respect. Izzy even shook his hand after, and
he did, yeah.
And they kind of had their nice little moment or whatever. If I was Costa, and he probably didn't know in the moment, he probably didn't know that Izzy did that, right?
Yeah,
because he doesn't know where he's at. But I don't like it. I didn't like when Colby screamed at Woodley, standing over him, screamed at
yeah. I don't like
when
that.
you have somebody knocked out or you have somebody finished, walk away, do your celebrating or whatever. Maybe it's just an old school thing. Barry Sanders was my favorite football player. You never saw him celebrate after a touchdown. The emotion's different. I just don't think over a knocked out opponent. I don't know. I just don't like it.
I would prefer to see everybody handle everything like Stipe does, all of the champions.
Yeah.
I would, and I didn't really clarify that before. I don't give a fuck what you do if you fight in the UFC and you're the champion, because you can do whatever you want. As a fan, personally, for me being a fan of each individual fighter, I would prefer that everybody carried themselves like a traditional athlete, but I'm a little bit old school in that sense. But I would like to see everybody show up to the press conferences in fucking suits and shake hands and be professionals about the whole thing. But that's just me, as opposed to the spectacle that we try to get for ESPN.
FYI, Paulo Costa wants a rematch with human trash Israel Adesanya. Low kick out.
Paulo Costa doesn't deserve a rematch yet.
No, not even.
Well, not immediate, but if he can win 2 or 3 fights, you know, if he can fight Robert Whitaker, and
I think he should be the one to move weight classes right now. We were all talking about that at the pre-show. I think right now is a great time for Paulo Costa to go up to light heavyweight and not fight for a title right away, but to fight a couple of the other dudes up there.
He'd get right in that mix.
Yeah.
But no, I'm with you. That's what I prefer. But I think those fighters need to understand, again, this is a business. And Izzy seems to kind of understand, have a pretty good knowledge of that. And it is a business. You definitely want to be loved or hated. You don't want to be in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Colby Covington pre-Brazil, where nobody cared about him. You know?
At least we all know what he does now.
And so he does understand that. But I mean, like I saw people after he rocked out Whitaker and he kind of did his little dance thing and did like the machine gun, like gunned them all down and holstered it. I saw some people didn't like that. I was fine with that. That's just like post-fight celebrating, but I don't like the standing over or whatever over a knocked out opponent.
How'd you feel about the other two that everybody's freaking out, or when he went over to the corner for Costa and he did the jack off motion on him? Well, I thought that was funny.
That was 100% funny and justified, because if you're a corner and you're hopping on the cage, your fighter just got knocked out and you're concerned with your opponent and you're not concerned about your fighter. I'm 100% okay with everything Izzy did to that little midget.
I thought that was funny. And the other one was when he was dancing around the ring, and I think they managed to cut the audio, but you can see on ESPN, he says, "Wrap my big black dick around my waist. That's a black belt."
I heard.
I love that.
I didn't see that.
I loved that. See, both of those things are fucking, I love the crazy celebrations. Rub it in your opponent's face. I agree with you. Let him get up off the mat.
There's
but showboat for sure.
Showboat for sure, man. Jason's seen it, like with my fights too. Like, I have so much respect. There's a kid out here in Utah. He was fighting this monster for the pro heavyweight belt out here. He knocked him out. It was one of the sickest knockouts you've ever seen. Literally broke the dude's face, cheekbone to cheekbone. Like, it was incredible. And he humbly got down on his knees and waited for him to get up and be okay. And I was like, that's incredible. I wish I had the self-restraint to do that, because every time I've won, especially finish somebody, I just freak out. Like, you just feel it, So the celebrating, go crazy, go wild.
Well, it's interesting to hear different fighters' perspectives, because you see a guy like, we had another local guy that was on here, had a very controversial ending to his fight with Carson Hardman when he knocked out Nathan Kersley.
Your boy Kersley, yeah.
Yeah, and his outlook was kind of like yours, Harrison, where he's like, we're going to war. Like, I am going to war with this guy. Like, I'm in there to murder this dude. Like that.
Back in the day, it's the same thing. You just take the ref out and you just let him go until one dude doesn't leave.
But you look at a guy like Izzy, who's promoting himself and whose stardom is way up there. But then you take his countryman, Usman, who is equally as talented. Well, I wouldn't say equally as talented, but damn close. Right there, equally as talented. And he doesn't get the respect that Izzy does, because he's not as vocal about it. He's a little more quiet. He's a little more respectful.
I was going to say that too, along with Stipe. I like how I love him on TV too. I love Usman as a champion. I love having guys like that hang on to the title for a long time.
I think that the general MMA fans don't really mind it. I think it's the tag along people that don't really watch it. They see something like that. They see Izzy doing something like that, but they don't understand what he's put into getting to that point. So Let them celebrate.
And a lot of the people, like fucking Twitter, man. A lot of the people's problem with it is like, oh, it's such like a sexual gesture. Like, it's like you guys are probably the same motherfuckers that freaked out when Randy Moss pretended to pull his pants down and like
that was funny.
You
need to like, and everybody's freaking out not because he like didn't get off the downed fighter or he wasn't letting his opponent get up off the canvas or get tended to. It's people are just mad. Oh, we humped him. Like, what a gross, vulgar sexual act. It's like, shut the fuck up. You just paid $65 to watch dudes punch each other in the face.
And the build up to the fight, they don't know. A lot of times that fan doesn't know what was said the months leading up to it. I mean, there was some words exchanged. It was intense. It's kind of like the Conor and Khabib thing. I thought Conor kind of crossed the line a little bit on that, but
I'd be more offended by somebody saying, you better watch out or I'm going to be your stepdad soon than by somebody pretending to hump me. I'd be more offended by the first thing. What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. So, man, we've been going for a minute here, but I do want to touch on one thing before we get off here. Did you see Dana's liking Colby and Jorge? That might be the next matchup.
I have seen that might be the next matchup. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? How do you see that one going?
I think it'll be kind of a grind, honestly, but I think Colby.
I think the same thing. I think Usman
takes it in a grind, but I really, really, really want to see Colby Covington just get knocked the fuck out.
I think everybody does. I don't mind him. I think
I've gotten in, obviously not professional fighters, but I've fought dudes like not in a ring or anything that are exactly like Colby Covington. And I just want to see Colby Covington get knocked the fuck out. But I think he wins the kind of a grind of a fight against Masvidal.
We're wrapping up, Zach. We're talking about Dana talking about Colby and Jorge possibly matching up as the next.
Jorge's not the dude to knock him out.
I don't think so either. I think Colby's going to do what Usman pretty much did. He might trade a little bit more with him, but he's too smart of a fighter. He's going to. Colby's on the level of Usman. I think he's going to be too much for Jorge.
Yeah.
But I like the fight. I think.
I'll give him $65 more.
That's going to be a huge fight.
You ready for this?
Come on, Zach. Let's hear it.
I think Jorge could beat Colby.
You think so?
I hope so.
Ooh,
I really do.
You heard it first here. Zach thinks.
Well, and there's a reason in this. There's a reason for this. Does Jorge beat Usman? Nope, he doesn't. And it wasn't because it was short notice or any of that. It's just because Usman could do whatever he wanted, right? And Colby gave Usman everything he could handle. But they pretty much just boxed each other the whole time. There's no wrestling involved. And Colby's kind of shown he doesn't use his wrestling a ton. He just likes to out-volume people. Like,
he wants to be a boxer so bad.
He wants to do it so bad. And if he engages in that with Jorge Masvidal, and remember, they used to be training partners. Like, dude, I think Jorge could Jorge's he's a killer and he's a dog. And
I could see Jorge getting him with some crazy ass shit like Jorge does, like some flying knee off the cage type thing.
I could see Jorge like hitting him with a body kick and then following it up with like a switch knee to the face or something. Is like, I mean, Jorge's creative with it too, but Colby doesn't knock people out either.
No, he doesn't.
You know what I mean?
Not at all. No.
And if it's a full fight, I actually like Colby. Like I think his shtick is funny. I think it's all a shtick, and
I think it's all a shtick. I think it's just it's not. I mean, I get it. I get it. I completely. I mean, shit, man. I live in the Midwest. I get it. Like, I understand where he's getting all these fans from, and I get his whole. I get what he's doing, but it seems fake to me. I mean, maybe I'm just fake. Like a bet, but like it's fake. Like, people think it's real.
Oh, people are buying.
Like, many people think it's real.
They're all fired up.
Dude, Colby's talked about it. Like, somebody, Brendan Schaub had him on his Food Truck Diaries, and Brendan got him to break character even just a little bit. He's like, what about like your family and like stuff? And he's like, Yeah, it's like it's hard on them because people think it's real.
I bet he
And
gets
then
death threats and shit, like all kinds of crazy shit.
Oh,
constantly.
especially what's going on in the world right now when you have the president calling you after one of your fights.
Yeah,
I
bet.
A lot of people hate right now. Like,
Dude, it's funny, but all that being said, people do that and then they downgrade his fighting ability, and dude can fight his ass off.
oh yeah,
But all that being said, I think, I'm not saying I'd guarantee Jorge would win, or or Jorge should be favored or whatever, but I definitely think Jorge could pull that upset off. Where with the Usman rematch, even on a full camp, I don't see it.
I don't either.
Flex
wants to say hi to everybody.
What up, Flex?
Oh, what's up, buddy? You know what? I don't think he was acting when he was on that interview, that post-fight interview with Kamaru, when he was screaming at him. That was
real.
Genuine, unbridled, uncontrollable rage, man. I haven't seen somebody that mad on TV in a bit.
Well, so can I ask you a question then? You watch a lot of MMA. We haven't conversed near enough yet about it. Did you think the stoppage with Usman was a little early?
For Colby?
Yeah.
No. His face was broken. I thought it was pretty clear.
Okay.
I thought he got hurt.
So I had a coach who taught me this early on, and I agree with it. Fighters always justify why they lose, right? I have one loss on my record, and I feel like it's pretty justified that I didn't lose. Jason knows the backstory on it, whatever. But we justify on our heads why a fight was stopped earlier or whatever. That's what allows us the human mind to give us the ability with confidence, step back in the cage again. Otherwise, if you can't justify it in your mind, what's going to happen is what happened to Ronda Rousey. You just get destroyed again and you mentally break super quick. The thing with Colby is I think he does, right or wrong, because I've heard some people think that it was an early stoppage. I've heard people share your opinion that it was totally justified because he was hurt and he was
hurt. I think part of the ref's job is to make sure nobody gets killed in there. Like,
right. So, but Colby has it in his mind that he was not done yet, and he probably saw, like we all did. One judge had it going into the fourth round, 3-1 Colby. One judge had it 2-2, and another judge had it 3-1 Kamaru. And he's sitting there saying that fifth round, he throws a Hail Mary at the end of that round and scores a takedown. Whatever he has to in his mind, he views that as a fight that he can win and beat Usman.
Yeah.
And that'll bring that rage, those feelings.
Do you think it was an early stoppage?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was still working. Like in a championship fight, and I know what the ref's job is, and I understand it. I mean, I get that, but he was working. He had a leg, and he was trying to work his way up. I mean, I would say the same thing about the Dominic Cruz Henry Cejudo fight.
Yeah, he
was working. Like, I don't think when the fighters, but refs are just so inconsistent with it, like. You see the Jose Aldo Peter Yan fight. Aldo was just covered up, not working, doing anything for 2 minutes, and just getting the side of his face bashed in.
That fight is on the first 48 right now, by the way.
Is it? Okay.
Did you guys recognize those two refs? I don't know.
No, the one was really bad. The tall, skinny dude.
Yeah. He was trash, right?
He was horrible.
Bad.
And was he the one that kept telling him to work after 10 seconds?
Yeah, they're like,
on the clinch.
Who is this guy? A fucking boxing referee? Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if a fighter, I mean, I understand that Colby was hurt. And here's my other thing too. When I say I think it was a little bit early, I'm not saying the outcome isn't different 10 seconds later, but let it go another 10 seconds and let's be sure, especially for a title fight.
Yeah. No, that's fair. But I think he was really hurt, and if we let it go another 10 seconds, he just gets like an orbital bone broken or something.
So be it. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's freaky. Like you said, it's a freaky cage fight. Like, yeah. It's brutal. It's violent. If somebody's orbital bone gets broken, he's not going to die in the next 10 seconds.
No, that's true. I thought the stoppage when it happened, I was like, I mean, if it had been I thought that was, it could have been later too. If it had gone on, I wouldn't have said that should have been stopped right there. If he stopped it, 10 seconds later after he got hit a couple more times.
Yeah,
So, I guess in that sense,
be sure.
Yeah.
Especially in a title fight, be
in
sure.
a title fight,
And I understand in an amateur, like I'm just an amateur fighter, and that level, you know, I think the refs should err on the side of caution a little bit more. Younger fighters in their career, maybe err on the side. One loss isn't the end of the world. Nobody goes undefeated in MMA. Like, it's fine. In title shot, I mean, you are literally,
those dudes are in there to get beat up and beat somebody up. Yeah.
and they're willing to die in there, and make sure they don't die. But everything else is on the table, dude.
Yeah.
They signed up for it.
They did sign up for it.
And when's the last time you've heard a fighter be like, man, I'm going to try, but, you know, that ref probably should have stopped it, 15 seconds.
They're not going to. Fighters aren't going to.
Never.
They'd never say that, yeah.
They're not going to say it. I'm going to say
but they don't even, but they don't even think it.
Yeah.
They don't even think it. Most of them, even Jose Aldo came out and said he appreciated the ref trying to give him the opportunity to fight out of it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the worst offenses of a non-stoppage I've ever seen.
Yeah, I guess that mindset's why I'm not a professional fighter. I just take L's and categorize them, organize them, and these guys are just not willing to take L's, and that's why they're professional fighters.
I took a few L's Saturday morning grappling with Zach.
Yeah.
Jason came up to my gym and we grappled.
It was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah.
It's fun times.
It's Monday. I suppose they keep the boxing gym open pretty late. I might go hit some bags later on today.
So Harrison, are you before we cut off here, who's your NFL team? You're in Minnesota. Are you a Vikings fan?
So I grew up in a Packers household. And and I was, so for the last couple of years, I was kind of deferring my NFL fandom, just not really watching that much football. This is the year that I'm last year I watched a good amount of football and wasn't really rooting for anybody. This year I'm back into it. And I mean, it's pretty easy to readopt the lifetime Packers fandom right now.
I mean,
okay, well, I'm just going to show you. I'm going to show you.
I know.
My office.
You can see. You can look up there. I told Harrison we were both lying. I'm originally from Michigan. I'm in Salt Lake right now, but I'm originally from Michigan. So, hey, we got to win yesterday, Zach. We got to win.
That was weird.
Was lucky
win,
but we.
I thought for sure we were going to lose that game.
My wife's a huge Packer fan, Harrison. So I got to listen to it. She's always dressed up, and there's Packer shit all over our house.
So I
Tag us in stupid posts.
I was just talking to my boy from Wisconsin. We were hanging out yesterday, and he's a Vikings fan, even though he's from Wisconsin. It's the apparel not great. The state of Wisconsin not my favorite. The fans that you see at Lambeau and in the city of Green Bay in general, not great. The whole Packers culture from being a fan perspective of it, and even the fucking colors, not my favorite. But if you look at it from it's the team I grew up with, and if you look at it from a legacy perspective and from a skill in success in just the realm of football perspective, it's a pretty easy NFL team to be a fan of. So I'm a Packers fan on paper, but you're not going to catch me wear a fucking cheese head in my life.
Do you play fantasy football?
I don't play fantasy football. Only fantasy I ever do is the UFC fantasy, just because it's hard. I'd find it more fun to pay attention to just teams and the overall kind of scheme of the offense and the defense as opposed to individual players. It's hard for me to pay attention to individual players in football. Yeah, I don't know why. It's always been that way for me.
Fair enough.
Roger that. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up until next time. Harrison, thanks for joining us, man. It was great. We went for a long time today. So
yeah, what was that? Like an hour and some?
Hour and a half. Yeah, about an hour and a half.
Oh shit.
Yeah, we were cruising today.
All right, gentlemen. Well, it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully this week we can get maybe some breakdowns for that home card, and we'll keep doing this stuff. Sounds good.
Roger that. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.